Cultural noise is noise that emanates from our differences, and the reality is that we can be different in many different ways. We can be different based on the job we hold. We can be different based on our hierarchy in the organization. We can be different based on our gender. We can be different based on our age. We can be different based on our race. We can be different based on our ethnicity. We can be different based on our sexual orientation. We can be different based on our political affiliation. We can be different based on our religion. We can be different based on our communication style. We can be different based on our work style preferences. We can be different in a lot of different ways, and those differences have the possibility of manifesting themselves in a way that interfere with our ability to communicate effectively. Raise your hand if you think it's A. Raise your hand if you think it's B. Raise your hand if you think it's C. Okay, it's C. This is not an optical illusion. It wasn't a trick. It was none of that. I know some people are like, nah, it's B. I know that. I've seen this. This is an optical illusion. You can't fool me. No, this is not an optical illusion. It's actually C. And to better understand open, I'm going to ask you a question. Let's assume you want to come have a conversation with me. And it's something important to you, and you're really interested in sharing this with me and getting my perspective and opinion and really having a really good conversation about it. And you come into my office and I say, sit down, let's have a conversation, and I do this. What does this say to you about the extent to which I'm interested in what you have to say? Now, again, I'm not suggesting that every single time you interact with another human being, you have to be sitting down, leaning forward, and making eye contact square like that. That isn't necessarily the case. But in circumstances in which noise is potentially high, it can be helpful to reduce some of those noise barriers and connect more effectively with one another. I want to amplify that a little bit because the reality is that I'm going to talk about 5 things. They're all very useful. They can all be very, very powerful. I'm going to give you some examples of steps we can take to address some of those different types of bias. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not suggesting you need to go out there and do all these things tomorrow. I'm really not. One of the things that I invite and challenge people to think about as it relates to these different steps that we can take to reduce unconscious bias is to really start thinking about how unconscious bias manifests itself in your life and thinking about how it can have a negative impact on your recruitment process and your selection process and your interviewing activities and your decision-making process and your problem-solving processes and how you evaluate people and doing all those kinds of things. And then think about that one step that you can take. With that in mind, I want to simply close with the idea that if you apply some of these tools and some of these techniques, you can significantly reduce your unconscious bias. You can improve your ability to actually have effective recruitment and selection processes. And you can increase the likelihood that you'll go out and you'll hire some short people. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the program. Unconscious bias is a powerful yet quiet performance killer. It literally makes us do things we didn't mean to do, say things we didn't mean to say, and sometimes even offend people without understanding how we offended them. I like to call unconscious bias the most powerful noise of all. And the reason I refer to it as the most powerful noise of all is because not only can it have a negative impact like some of the other forms of noise that we talked about, not only can it interfere with our ability to accurately transmit our messages, not only can it interfere with our ability to connect effectively with people who are both culturally similar as well as those who are culturally different, it can do so in ways that we don't even realize. This is an empathy-based model. It's based on the idea that if you listen first, if you understand where another person's coming from, and if you communicate that understanding, you are going to be very powerfully demonstrating empathy. You're going to be able to connect with people very powerfully, even people with significant differences, be they cultural or otherwise, because you are doing a great job of saying to that person, both verbally and really in terms of your actions, that I am listening and I genuinely want to understand where you're coming from. Let's say you're their manager and you want them to know who's boss. That's a situation in which you should sit behind your desk and have them on the other side of the desk. That's a very, very powerful message of who's in charge. On the other hand, if you want it to be more equal, you want to create a more egalitarian circumstance, you should come out from behind your desk and you two sit facing each other with nothing between you. So you absolutely can use space to enforce power. And the assumption in all of this, and again, whether it's a meeting, whether it's an educational session of some type, whatever it might be, the idea is that you want to facilitate or articulate a message. You want people to understand that message, and then you want them to take that message and do something with it. You want them to actually get out of this experience, this educational experience, and do something that's going to be of value to them and those around them. And they can do that more effectively if you keep it simple and if you don't try to throw out too much.